You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You just crossed over.
MK Ultra was a government program run by the Central Intelligence Agency. It was a mind control program.
Been in war for 20 years.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
The moon landing was a hoax, and I can prove it. Not only did we not go to the moon, we can't even get to space. In fact, we can't even leave lower Earth orbit. This is Calm Man Explains. I'm your host, Sean. On the show, we delve into the world of conspiracies, and I give you my conspiratorial perspective, while trying to flesh out what is real, what is fake, and what is perception.
Let's talk about this, because this is fascinating. I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does, I remember my parents waking me up, and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. So you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, but what we saw was we all were gathered around the old curved top radio and listened.
Talking about how many feet we were going to the left and right, and then I said, contact light, engine stop.
It was
and
exciting.
A few other things, and then Neil said, Houston, Tranquility Base, the Eagle has landed. Man, how about that?
That was very exciting.
Not a bad line.
Yeah.
Being skeptical about the moon landing, believe it or not, is as American as you can get. You can be a believer in the moon landing, or you could be like me and think it's all One thing we can all agree on is the government has a history of lying to its own people. This is the same country that has done experiments on its own people, like the Tuskegee experiments, where they lied to a bunch of people from the black community and gave them syphilis by trying to convince them that there is this life-saving shot they can have. Or there was that one time when the government dosed a large percentage of the people with LSD and experimented on them with mind control called MK Ultra. Or the other time when the government just started spying on us through the Patriot Act. So if you're finding this video and you're trying to understand why someone wouldn't believe the original story of the moon landing, just know there are a lot of reasons why they would choose to be skeptical of a government that continues to lie to them. This is part 2 of the moon landing hoax series. Last week we talked about the death of Gus Grisham and the possible CIA cover-up of the Apollo 1 disaster in the history of the space race. This week we're going to get into the evidence. So last week was mainly about assumptions about what I think could have possibly happened. I think it was very possible that Gus Grisham was murdered. I think it was very possible that the guy that was investigating him, Barron, I think he could have been murdered for looking into it. This week, we are going to get into the things that do have a lot of evidence. There's not going to be a lot of... there is going to be assumptions, because that's what we do on the show. But there's going to be more of clear-cut evidence on here. And we got visual proof of some of this stuff. So it's very interesting. So stay tuned. So when it comes to debunking the debunkers, it should be a slam dunk. What I've always said about the moon landing, and well, not always, just the last few years, I used to believe we landed on the moon, believe it or not. But what I tell people is there is more proof of a staged moon landing than there is actual proof that we went to the moon. But there's just more proof that they staged a fake moon landing. They're even making movies today. They're making a movie right now about faking the moon landing. And they've made other movies, like they made a movie about faking a landing on Mars. And they basically they go through a lot of this stuff. I'll put it right here. This is the name of the movie, because I can't remember on the top of my head, because I'm kind of going off script right here. There should be able to debunk the conspiracy theorists. It should be a slam dunk for NASA and everyone that's involved. Just to say that we landed on the moon. You can easily just get the original footage of the moon landing, right? You would think that's like, they'll be like, just look at this. There's metadata on here that will prove or help prove that we landed on the moon. Then you could take questions from there. The only problem is that film was deleted. Why is the original film so important, you ask? That's what a lot of people ask. Like, what? Who cares if they've deleted it? We already have it. There's copies of it. It's recreated. It's made in. They cleaned it up and just so it's easier for the viewer to see it. Like a manipulated video. It's kind of like what NASA does on Mars, where they used to, like, back in the day, they used to think of Mars as this red planet. So like all the footage that they would claim to have on Mars, they would put like a red filter on it. And that's not a conspiracy theory. They got caught doing it, and they had to immediately address it. They're like, yeah, we manipulated the footage. They have a guy that's actually that's his job, is to manipulate footage, because they say so it's easier for the audience to digest it and kind of see what it is, which is a form of propaganda when you think about it. But anyways, like I was saying, so the footage is important because the original footage also had like telemetry data. This data included the astronauts' like heartbeat and the location of the LEM while it was in space. So that seems like a pretty big, like, maybe that's why they deleted it. If they didn't actually go to the moon, they did that so they can, like, if they're gonna fake footage, that would probably be the best thing. Like, let's get rid of the original stuff so we can hide some. You know what I mean? We're talking about like the greatest accomplishment in human history, and it was deleted. So originally they said the footage was missing, and then they started looking into it, and then NASA came out and they said they had to delete it because of severe data tape shortage at the time. My first thought is, what film is more important than the moon landing? Wouldn't that be priority? Like, all right, let's not delete the moon footage, the biggest accomplishment in NASA's history, in man's history, the human race. They said we landed on the moon. They're like, I'm just gonna record over it because we got other stuff. It's so hilarious that they would just delete it. They electronically delete it. Why wouldn't they just like save it and put it in a museum? I mean, that's what I would do. If I wanted to fake the footage, I would just delete it.
I have a few questions I would like to ask, if I may. Firstly, as I'm sure you might have read in the newspapers recently, a moon rock that was on display in a Dutch museum, which you, Neil, and Mike had given to the then ambassador to the Netherlands at the time. It turned out to be a piece of petrified wood. I was wondering, at the time, when you were in possession of this, were you aware that this was petrified wood, or were you also led to believe that it was a genuine moon rock?
Petrified wood? Well, that doesn't sound like it came from the moon.
So Neil Armstrong, along with Buzz Aldrin, the two guys the two first people on the moon, apparently, they presented a moon rock to the Dutch Prime Minister Willem Drees. Probably say, I'm trying to butcher his name. Who cares? So they presented a moon rock in 1969. Same year they apparently landed on the moon. So they presented him with a moon rock. But later on, they did tests on this moon rock, and they found out it wasn't a moon rock at all. In fact, it wasn't even a rock. It was petrified wood. Another fake thing about the moon landing. They don't even have real moon rocks. It wasn't even a rock. Wild. A lot of this stuff is fake. Fake, fake, fake. Speaking of fake, in deception, did you know that Apollo 11 was caught lying about being halfway to the moon? Did you know that when they said this, they hadn't even left Earth's atmosphere? So what they said was they were halfway to the moon, they actually weren't. Because Bart Siebel, you might not like his style of interviewing. A lot of people didn't like his video he did called Astronauts Gone Wild, which is a hilarious name. Moon landing thing was like his life's work, so he kept trying to get this footage, kept asking NASA. They finally sent him the video of this, the original footage, but they weren't supposed to send this actual footage. This was not for public consumption. For some reason, they sent it to him. So Bart Siebel gets this footage from NASA that was not supposed to be distributed to the public. In this footage, they were trying to show what Earth looked like from space. So basically how they do this, they get a camera and they put it directly on the window because there's not a lot of light. So they're trying to get as much light into the lens as possible just so you can see Earth. So this is what they said when they sent this footage to like the news and everything. So everyone's like, "Whoa, look at the Earth." But Bart Siebel had this footage, which I like to call the director's cut.
Roger, Houston, Apollo 11. Calling in from about 130,000 miles out.
On this video that was not meant to be seen by the public, because this footage was edited. They've edited out the parts that you're not supposed to see. It shows that they shot this footage a few feet from the window. So instead of having the camera on the window, it was actually like 3 or 4 feet back. So the window was like a circle, since they're still in the in lower Earth orbit. So what this did when they shot a few feet from the window, it created an effect that made it look like the Earth was smaller. The effect was to make it look like they're halfway to the moon. When Bart Siebel saw this footage at first, he was like, he sees the shadow go over the Earth. He's like, what is that? So it basically what happened, someone that was on this spaceship accidentally stood in front of the camera and blocked part of the Earth. So it's one of the biggest bloopers of all time when you think about it. But so it casts this huge shadow of the Earth. So like either some kind of giant alien shadow over Earth, or just some dummy standing in front of the camera. It's funny. Even I bet you they laugh. They're like, "Oh, come on, Buzz," or whoever. Who's is Buzz the dumb one? I mean, they're all astronauts. You gotta be kind of smart to do that. It's probably Michael Collins because he never talks. I never heard him talk before. And then another part that happens on here, at the end of the footage, before they turned off the camera, the lights in the spaceship turn on, so you could see the lights inside of the ship. And this shows that they were shooting the footage a few feet away to lie about being halfway to the moon. So they're staging the footage. Like, what? How the hell do you explain that? How do you explain that to anybody? How do they explain that to you? If they're trying to convince you that we went to the moon, how do you explain that? I would like to hear. But does this prove we didn't go to the moon? Well, no, not necessarily. But what it absolutely proves is that NASA was using fake footage to show we were going to the moon. Just think about that. If we could fly to the moon and go through the Van Allen belt, why would we need to fake a shot of the Earth? Why couldn't they just do it for real? Like, you could simply just shoot footage from space when you're halfway to the moon and get a real shot of the Earth. You don't know what the answer is? We can't go through the Van Allen belt. That's why.
The plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So
the main issue with going to the moon is and has always been the Van Allen belt. The Van Allen radiation belt, this is between the Earth and the moon. We talked about it a little bit on last month's episode. So this Van Allen radiation belt is an ultra dangerous area of space that produces deadly amounts of radiation that would be impossible to pass humans through without killing them. This puzzled scientists so much that they basically told JFK that it would be impossible to go through it. It was such a big issue that they almost scraped the whole space program. It was a big deal. Then all of a sudden, miraculously, the issue of the Van Allen belt, it just disappeared. Like they stopped talking about it. It's no longer an issue.
These are the three astronauts broadcasting from somewhere halfway between the Earth and the Moon.
This is coming to you approximately halfway between the moon and the Earth.
It seems that the most interesting thing to talk about is the behavior of the toothbrush in absence of gravity.
You can see Bill's got his toothbrush here. Demonstrates how things float around 0G.
In the Apollo 8 mission report, a 250-page document filled with technical information of all kinds about the mission just completed, the crossing of the Van Allen belts is not mentioned once, not even in passing. It was as if the problem of radiation, with all the dangers described by Van Allen, suddenly had never existed.
So when they first start trying to, when they find out the Van Allen belt, ultra dangerous, a few years later, stop talking about it. So now no one's talking about the Van Allen belt. So back to that documentary that Bart Siebel did on the Astronauts Gone Wild. He had Alan Beam on there. He was an astronaut that apparently went to the moon. I think he was like the fourth man to walk on the moon. He asks him, never mind all the stuff about swearing on the Bible. You can believe all you want about that, but he asks these really good questions. Like he asked Alan Beam about going to the moon and what was like going through the Van Allen belt. And he says this.
Any ill effects from the Van Allen radiation belts?
No. Now, I'm not sure we went far enough out to encounter the Van Allen radiation belt. Maybe we did.
And listen to Bean's reply when he is told that the Van Allen belts are located between the Earth and the Moon.
The belts are 1,000 miles to 25,000 miles above the Earth.
Then we went right out through them.
It's a curious response indeed.
So he basically sounded like he had no idea if they went through the Van Allen belt. That's crazy. Like, how the hell would he not know? That should have been one of the main things that he knows about. It's incredible, because another space mission that wasn't that long ago, they were able to go about 400 miles above the Earth. I think that's like one of the highest ever. So when they got close to the Van Allen belt, when they would close their eyes, they would see how they would explain stars. They would say shooting stars. But basically, this is just cosmic radiation. I guess that's some kind of effect that happens to you when you're being exposed to a lot of cosmic radiation or cosmic rays. But that was just them seeing actual radiation. That's how much radiation is in that part of space, and that's why we can't get through there. The fact that we were able to fly a spaceship with the computing power of a cell phone into space through a radiation belt that would kill you almost instantly, with technology that doesn't exist today. For some reason, our space technology regressed in the last 60 years. We were able to land a module in the first try. It's pretty incredible and unbelievable. Here is Don Pettit saying, we don't even have the technology to go back to the moon because we destroyed it. And we don't remember how to do it.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
How dumb do you think we are? We destroyed the greatest technology ever? Why? All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, and speaking of the Van Allen radiation belt, is the issue with cameras. All right, so I know you're probably thinking, oh, the stars thing. Taking a picture on the moon and you can't see the stars. That's what a lot of conspiracy theorists believe in. No one really talks about that one because it's dumb. Everyone that kind of understands how cameras work, you couldn't, if you're taking a picture on a dark surface, you're gonna have to adjust your exposure. It's gonna make the skies a lot blacker because you're trying to get the picture in front of you brighter. So that's why you can't see the stars. The thing I want to talk about on the camera is radiation, because the radiation part is it's a big thing with cameras. I know a lot of people that still believe we landed on the moon. They just cannot explain why there is no radiation damage to any of the photos that were taken on the moon. Just look at these photos that I'm gonna put up right now. So that photo right there is the original, and then this one right here is one pass through an X-ray scanner at an airport. So what happens is it starts to damage the photo. It starts becoming overexposed. Say if you have a dark sky in it, it starts kind of changes it, and it puts a lot of noise in the picture. And that's just one pass through the X-ray machine. Just imagine what cosmic radiation or cosmic rays would do to this film from 1969. Because they didn't really understand radiation like how we do today. So you would have at least some radiation damage. And if you go look at any of the original photos on NASA that they have, which is only like 24 pictures, which is crazy, they only have 24 pictures from landing on the moon that you can see. It should all be public. There's only 24 pictures. There should be from the first moon landing, there should be hundreds, not 24. So on these photos that you see, there's a perfect black skies, no damage. How? Doesn't make sense. So the photo's fake? Well, in a sense, they're real because they're taken probably somewhere on Earth. They're probably at a studio. Just think about the famous moon rock photo where they take the picture and then you have the straight shadows of the lem behind them, and then they have a rock where the shadow is pointing a different way. That proves that there is studio lights, like this. See that? That's a studio light. But what the studio lights do, they're gonna give you different types of shadows. If you have this light and then you have another light over here, they're gonna cast different shadows. Like if you just have one source, the sun, and it's shooting down, your shadows should go the same way. Like if you're watching this right now and it's daytime, go outside. If you're with somebody, both of you guys go stand out there. This might take 3 people, actually. All right, so if you have 2 people with you, tell them to go outside in the sun and stand kind of close to each other. I mean, they don't have to be close to each other, but notice how their shadow is going to be pointing the same way. It's not going to be one shadow is going to be like that, and then the other one's going to be going like that. They're all going to be pointing the same way, and they're straight. The moon rock one, maybe it's petrified wood, I don't know. But this rock right here, the shadow is going this way, and then the lem shadow is going straight that way. Doesn't happen with sunlight. Sorry, doesn't happen. Anyways, back to the Van Allen belts. Nothing seems to make sense with this. Dr. Kelly Smith, he's like a NASA engineer of the Orion program. He says in this video that we need to test this area to see if we can put humans through the Van Allen belt. So he's saying that like, oh, by the way, Van Allen belt, dangerous again. What Dr. Kelly Smith is saying is right now, like today, we don't want to put people through the Van Allen belt because it's extremely dangerous.
600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
I was talking to a guy at work, and I was trying to explain to him the Van Allen belt, and then he goes on his phone. He's like, "Let me look this up." He's like, "Actually, on my Google, it says that the Van Allen belt's really not that dangerous." Well, Dr. Smith is saying, I'm going to trust the science here, and I'm going to say that the Van Allen belt's pretty dangerous. So NASA's over here. They're trying to figure out how to get through the Van Allen belt without killing everybody. So which is it? Is it dangerous, or is it not that dangerous? Are they ever going to explain? No. In conclusion, the real proof, like I was saying, like there are things about the moon landing things that are absolutely false and absolutely true, and there's things that are not absolute at all because we don't know. But the things we do know is what Johnny Harris, the YouTuber that claims he debunked the moon landing hoaxer, the conspiracy theorist, our friend at the World Economic Forum's propaganda wing. He says that conspiracy theorists, all of us, believe the reason they weren't on the moon, like, where's the stars at? And then we went over this a few minutes ago. If you actually were on the moon, you wouldn't be able to see the stars anyway, because how you adjust your camera and your ISO and your exposure, your shutter speeds, so you could see something on a dark surface. No one believes this. No conspiracy theorist is like, oh, there's no stars in the sky. Someone that's actually looked into this does not believe that. But they claim that everyone that's a conspiracy theorist believes this. Things that can be proven are the faking of the footage. That's indisputable. They faked footage that they later had to explain that they were doing it for a practice run. I'm not buying that. You could have did it for real. It's not that hard. Why do you need a practice one? Just get a real one. And if that one doesn't work, record it again. And the thing is, that footage was sent out to the news. That footage was actually sent out. So, like, it wasn't a practice run. It was an actual real footage. So that's been proven. They faked footage there. Another thing to keep in mind is the mystery of the Van Allen radiation belts. Can we get astronauts through there safely? Alan Beam doesn't remember going through it, even though he went to the moon, allegedly. Engineers at NASA right now are trying to figure out a way to get through the Van Allen belt. And they claim the reason they can't get through there is because they destroyed the original technology to get to the moon. Do you believe that? Because that's stupid. Someone's probably watching this that is a skeptic of the conspiracy theory. I don't mean to call you stupid, but it's a dumb thing to think. Why would we destroy the original tapes? Why? Are we running out of space? Did we run out of building? Like, you don't think NASA has $1 billion? Well, I don't know how much their contract is right now, but they don't have an extra closet to put some original footage away, or there's not a museum that can hold on to it. And then the whole thing with the moon rock. You think that was an accident? It was funny that someone was like, well, let's test this thing out. I don't believe it. Oh, buddy, you just gave us a petrified piece of wood, you dummy. And this is the reason why I changed over from believing we went to the moon. Because the thing I used to say was, I think we've went to the moon, but we didn't film it. And that's what a lot of people say. But now I'm on the side of no, we've never went to the moon, and we filmed it, just because of the Van Allen belt. I mean, this is as obvious as it gets. Is it possible that we land on the moon and we fake the footage? Maybe. There's just a lot of people that believe that, and it's. I don't hate that theory. I just don't believe it. I'm just not on that boat. I think we faked the whole thing. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment. Hit the like button. We definitely need your help in the algorithm. It helps the episode grow in the YouTube algorithm. The channel's growing, so I'm liking it. We haven't put out a lot of episodes yet, so spread the word. Share with your friends and family. If it's during a holiday or birthday party, turn it on. There's no bad words. It's pretty family friendly. The bad words are bleeped out just for the kids. But if you want to help support the show, go to patreon.com/conmanpodcast. Thank you. Have a good night.